You should be good to go. Perfect. Thank you very much. So what we will do is we'll leave this to be able to be shared and accessed by other ACT-IAC members after the about, I think, Nancy, it takes about a week and a half or so sometimes to get it all up and running, but everybody should be able to find it on the website. So with that, Fredy, you want to kick things off?
Sounds good. Thanks, David. So
just check, you're seeing my screen, right, Fredy?
Yep, I can see it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks.
So I'm going to kick things off. I'm going to be brief for two reasons. One, I don't know if those of you joined the Federal Insights Exchange to talk about USDA data and AI. So I hit up some very high level stuff of what we're doing, but really want to kind of discuss, what USDA is real quick for those of you that have not interacted with us. We are made up of 8 mission areas and the headquarters unit. And you're going to hear from 2 of, our very mature and I would say innovative and willing to shake things up mission areas, and hearing some specifics from both of them and the efforts that they're leading. Next slide, please. But at a high level, the data and AI program, we're here really to realize the full potential of our data.
Recording in progress.
And we do that through 3 ways. And you're going to see one of those ways in really just delivering an effective data platform across the board. So this requires partnership from the department with mission areas, between mission areas, like you see with Elango and Deedra talking, and then also, with our various counterparts, such as CTOs and our cyber folks. So what you're seeing is really just all of that collaboration kind of working together. So I'm going to turn it over to Elango, who's going to kick us off, but I'm excited to kind of see both of their work today. Over to you, Elango.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, from wherever you are joining. My name is Elango Thillai, and I'm the acting Assistant Chief Data Officer for USDA FPAC, and also Chief Data Scientist. So I will start with our USDA data strategy framework. It's basically about 16-page documents. It is already available, in the website, in the internet. You can go and check out the link. I'm trying to compress that 16-page into one framework over here, a pictorial representation. So basically, this is FY 24-26 data strategy framework that we are working on, all the mission areas. So we have goals like, 5 goals basically under the different topics here. So under data governance and leadership, right? We have established ACO roles, but we are maturing that ACO roles across that department, and also evolving the data governance structure and putting multiple processes to measure and maximize the organizational value that we are getting out of data, right? Quality, stuff like that. And also especially around that, promote and collaborate that department and the different agencies in the government on the data and the AI opportunities that we are collaborating. So that's one of the first goals objectives. And on the second things in the data analytics workforce, obviously the federal data workforce that we are recruiting and retaining, and multiple upskill initiatives and training. And also all the mission areas have a centralized analytical teams, working as a data COE that, to handle all the future challenges. And also on that common data analytics tools. So we have a EDAP, which stands for Enterprise Data Analytics Platform Tools. And we continue to innovate and modernize to be a cost-effective and continue to monitor and reduce cost and complexity of tools in EDAP. And also multiple data, the modern data architecture, which you are going to see, that I'm going to present, and the data also present, and improve geospatial capabilities. And on the open data side, we already have, over 200 dashboards, with the 600K views, and that is already available. We continue to monitor and powered by centralized data catalog assets. So people will have visibility, and also we are looking on that identifying more data to bring those key data to EDAP, so to continue expand this open data platform. And from the goals of analytical for purpose, right, we are getting into that AAA strategy and advanced analytics and data visualization, and also that advanced AAA analytical tools, advanced analytical tools and AAA capabilities to provide more from the EDAP perspective. So these are some key accomplishments that I want to point out. So Data Governance Advisory Board that we met across the mission area to continue more, measure, among us and improve on that. And like I said, like in ACT data visualization day, that's once in a year that happens, that promotes the data culture across the USDA and USD-wide and mission area centric dashboards and data science workbench to improve and promote advanced analytics. So this is the overall picture of that USDA data strategy framework for 24 to 26. And like I said, the link is below here, and you can go and read in detail on that one, all these goals and objectives. And with that, I'll go to the mission areas data strategy adoption. And today, me and Deedra are representing from FPAC and MRP respectively. So we are going to speak, for those mission areas. So how we are adopting to the data strategy that you saw that in the previous slide, right? So we developed the data strategy from mission area in alignment with the USDA's data strategy. And for the complex analysis, continue innovate methods and tools, and also upskill training. And from a FPAC point of view, we have got a lot of data silos and aging data platforms that we are doing an active data modernization in AWS cloud, primarily on AWS base, the cloud modernization that we are doing. And also FPAC's ACT-IAC team is adding additional federal workforce. And from FPAC point of view, we developed a data quality framework and also working on pilot implementation. And from an MRP standpoint of view, the adoption of the data strategy start with their active data modernization in Azure cloud to modernize their entire enterprise data. And MRP also promote that the data teams expansions across the mission area. And also they continue to collaborate with the leaders to develop multiple modernization roadmaps, and also exploring opportunities, to use the use of the open data platform to, promote that open data initiatives. So this is the adoptions that we took from the data strategy, what you have seen from a department-wide. And so with that, I'm talking about the aging data platforms, get into the data modernization. So this is USDA's FPAC data modernization conceptual architecture. And this is a base architecture that we are operating on. And this is like similar to every industry's moving towards the data modernization. So currently we have, aging platforms, like I mentioned, very data silos, right? Very domain specific data warehouses, which has got a lot of limitations, especially to address the data literacy, data democratizations, things like that. So we are going with this architecture. And if you see this one, the one on this boxes with the bright colors are the one that we are already implementing right now. We've got few phases that's been already implemented. And the other one are that is in our roadmap. So if you see that Currently, we have got data sources limited to a structured data, but we are planning to expand into, multiple different data sources, even up to that IoT sensors and external sources, cost packages, things like that. And even what we want to go into an application event framework. And from a data ingest perspective, multiple data ingest mechanism that we are planning to implement, and such as data streams in case of application events and event bridge or IoT, and the other AWS transfer methods that we plan to use. But currently, so far that implementation that we have done is by using DMS. In some area, we are doing FTPs. And from a data products perspective, this architecture that we are going with the lakehouse architecture and to expand the use of the data, right? Both in structured format as well as the open data format. In this case, open data format is, with the semi-structured and unstructured data, those things that we wanted to host in the data lakes. So there are multiple data processing mechanisms that we are using currently, such as AWS ELT mechanism and Lambda for some of the data process and orchestrations, step functions, and catalog for the Glue to operate on that, and also with all our lakehouse query engine that we are using Glue. And from a data lakes perspective, I'm calling that as a lakes because we are not limited with the one lake. It's a domain-specific data lakes. So we are using that is like primarily about a raw zone and curated zone. And some of this old data that we are looking at the different storage mechanism for archiving of the data. And also we have, from a warehouse perspective, we have a transformed and optimized data in multiple forms, such as, data warehouse Redshift based data warehouse is our primary mechanism to store our optimized and transformed data. But also in some of our use case that we are going to use operational data stores, and also this is our legacy model data vault, some of those that we are going to inherit and place in this mechanism. And on the data profiling, we are still looking on some of those tools to continue profile, and some of them in POC currently, mainly using on hand coding scripts. And on the data governance side, again, mission area perspective that we are looking for a data catalog. There is multiple tools that we are currently working on in evaluation mode and POC. And that's going to help our users, end users, everyone, all the data users to have a visibility into our data catalog, all the data assets, and also, to interoperate with the other mission areas and also USDA wide to give a visibility on that data assets. And from a reporting perspective, primarily, on the Tableau reports, but it's not limited there. We are looking into some other tools also from operational perspective. And on the advanced analytics side, currently it's being implemented is Athena Lakehouse Query Engine, primarily on this power users and data scientists. But we are looking into, some of them are currently in that POC pilot mode, like SageMaker Studios, and also we are using Data Science Workbench. And this is on our roadmap, like open data we already have, and APIs, some of those machine learning derived data that we wanted to kind of expose as an API for operational applications to use wherever it's applicable, and some marketplace data share. And from a security monitoring code management perspective, these are the different services that we are using, automated CI/CD and code repository, and the other things that we did on the POC and pilot is, infrastructure as a code, and to automate, and some redundant tasks from to improve the efficiency of the operations. So these are some, benefits that I'm pointing out from what we are having this one. Currently, we have got, nightly batch load in the legacy platform. So we are looking for to improve the data currency and, mostly on the end user side, at least power users and data scientists more on that, DIY method, right? Let them have the data consumptions on their own, and all visibility into data assets. So this is primarily on that conceptual architecture that we are using to implement all our modernization. And so this is a couple of samples that already implemented, a couple of phases. And like I said, right, this is one of the things that we get the data from one of our systems that it's a very high sensitivity data, how we are managing the sensitive data, with different processes here and orchestrated process to finally load into our Redshift, as well as, some of our operational data store that we have. And then this one is like in another implementation. This is especially like, Lakehouse query perspective, right? So if you see this one, we get the data from our source systems, and the data gets orchestrated by our step functions. That's an orchestration, and we are continue have an CI/CD with the code implementation, and the data comes into the different zone, right? We have got the landing zone, and the data comes in, all the incremental data, and our glue ELT that process the data and load the data into optimize the data in a Parquet format, right? And then we have another ELT to have an enrichment or adding additional data sets or curating further, to have an optimized area. And so this, when these data are going to the multiple hops, right? We got a crawler that is completely automated that crawls all the new data and update our data catalog. And likewise in this area also, the refined and transformed ODS zone, and so that users can access the data through the Lakehouse query, which is Amazon Athena. You don't have to have a table to be created, so it's automatically populated as a view, into the data format. Any open data format can be seen as a view, and they can access the data in any of this format, right? So this is another implementation. So wherever it is possible, right, we are using currently on the mixture of like, serverless services, and also in the Redshift perspective, like the instances that we stood up. And these are multiple consumptions method that we are using. So this is kind of like a couple of architectural implementation in alignment with the conceptual architecture that I was walking through earlier on that. And couple of use cases. And so how exactly this helps as our end users, right? This is one of the use case that we currently it's not in place, but we wanted to go there. We do not, our users are waiting for a one-day nightly batch, all the time, right? So sometimes, especially during that crop acreage reporting time or some other business critical events happening, right? We would like to have that data that is getting into that data scientists or even end users in a very near real time. So when we get into an event framework, right, the applications, events or messages can go into the real time. And then as soon as it gets into the data, right, the crawler, crawls and, update the metadata, and the data scientists can have an access to that query immediately to that through the Athena. So this is reduced dependency on the nightly data refresh, and data is also near real time. So this is, we had multiple business use cases before we started with the cloud modernization from the business. And they say that these are, multiple business use cases that we are lacking in the current infrastructure. How do we do that one? That's how we ended up on this modernization. And one of the other interesting use cases that was from, our users were, so let's say that in the current infrastructure, the legacy infrastructure in DW, and if the data scientists or power users, they derive some data, right, based on multiple calculation on the Excel sheet, they have to, create a ticket for the DBAs, and the DBAs have to create a table, and they have to load the data, and you could imagine how much of time it is going to consume for them, right? So this use case really helped them, like the speed to market here. So in this case, the data scientists like as soon as, or the power users, as soon as they derive the data, they can upload the data into an Excel sheet, right? Upload the data in Excel format or whatever the format that they are working on, CSV or whatever it is. They upload into that S3 based data lake here. And we have, the moment it is uploaded, the crawler automatically, the crawler would keep on monitoring into the data lake, the folder. And as soon as it sees any new file comes in, right, it could read and update the glue catalog. And because this is available in the glue catalog, now any other persons in their team, they can have access to that particular data in this data catalog in a view format, which they can join into that data warehouse, any structured format which might have been loaded on the previous day or previous week, whatever it is. So it is providing additional capability for the data scientists, and and also they don't have to rely on the operations team to load the data, create the table, things like that. So this is another use case they are thrilled about, currently working on it. They're currently using on those implementations. So with that, I am giving to Deedra.
All right, thank you, Elango. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Good morning or afternoon, everybody. I'm Deedra Murrieta. I am the Deputy Assistant Chief Data Officer and the data architect for the MRP mission area. MRP stands for Marketing and Regulatory Programs. We, APHIS and AMS agencies, we're heavily focused on protecting animals and plants of American agriculture, including promoting, marketing, and trade for these sectors. As Elango mentioned, our mission area is working in the Microsoft Azure cloud for our data modernization efforts. You'll notice in this architecture that you see, it looks very similar to what you saw from Elango's efforts, just really in a different cloud space. We're currently in the pilot stage with everything that you see here. We have the services and tools are a few of these services and tools like Tableau, Esri. We're using them in production, but disparate, separate from what you see here. With our pilot, we're focused on building out really a common data tool set that we will offer to our programs. We have 20 different programs within MRP. These are our business organizations, and they'll be using it for data management and governance. Within Azure, what I really heavily focus on is the middle of this diagram. You see we're also utilizing the data lakehouse architecture, but we're looking at heavily into the medallion architecture. It's a simple but really effective model for broad use and scalability. Medallion architecture separates the data into 3 layers, bronze, silver, and gold, based on the data quality. So the gold layer is essentially a final layer of data that's really optimized for efficient analysis and use by our business end users. I'm not going to go through this whole diagram, but focusing on what we are really emphasizing in our pilot efforts, and that's that data lakehouse section. And data processing and data governance. So down in the data processing, you can see we have multiple different Azure services that we are making available for both data transformation and advanced analytics. So essentially, we really want to enable all of our data practitioners across the mission area to utilize the tools that best suits their needs and what works well for their use cases. And then data governance, as you could see, we are utilizing Azure Purview. We're still piloting it right now. But as Elango mentioned, each mission area, we're all adopting data catalogs that can, in the future, sync with each other and sync with our enterprise data catalog. And Purview is the one that we are moving forward with. But really, a key thing here is just that moving into this enterprise cloud platform with this common data toolset, it's really going to enable us to implement common data quality processes, implement a common data catalog, and really enable us to train our workforce better because we know what skill sets they need. We know what upskilling we need to do to utilize data better as a strategic asset across the mission area, and we can provide support and data sharing across the mission area with this type of architecture. You can see on this for data visualization and reporting, this is somewhat separate from our Azure pilot. These are already tools that our data practitioners utilize, but this will enable us, this pilot will enable us to create better data to use in those visualization and reporting tools and to curate a bigger or a more comprehensive data picture so that we can have even better insights into what our business users need. And of course, at the bottom, there's always the administration and monitoring tools for the infrastructure side. Thanks. Sorry, I just got distracted by the chat message and I'm excited about it. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is, so that the architecture diagram that you just saw is, I was mentioning we have 20 different programs. So if you are in one program, that is what your architecture would look like. We really are huge proponents of the data mesh idea in that we have data teams in many of our programs, as well as my central data team. So we want to really give our programs a lot more autonomy because they are the experts in their data and they have that domain level knowledge. So what the data mesh means is that each program, at least for us, can have its own entire data management framework and architecture. You can see up here at the top, I have MRP level data landing zone. This is one that my team would own. It's the cross mission area data. It's all of our employee data, business data, geospatial data, that kind of thing. It's the stuff that we all share across our mission areas or across our mission area. And then each program 1 data landing zone up to program X data landing zone. So they have their own space to be the admin and the managers of their own data, but these are all connected to each other. And they are all connected to a data management landing zone where we have our data governance. We have our admin and monitoring, and this landing zone is centralized and managed centrally so that we have a team that can look across those landing zones and ensure everything's working correctly. Our data governance with the Purview catalog, everybody can see across all of these landing zones, all the data that we have. They can get the metadata for it and see what might be useful for them and what kind of data sharing they might want to do so that we have a great amount of cross-mission area collaboration, because that is something that we all know when you have siloed architectures and everybody working on their own projects, that cross collaboration and sharing is really difficult. So we're trying to really maximize how much we can share this data. Next slide, please. So this is kind of moving into the next phase of what we wanted to talk about. You saw Elango really talking about our USDA data strategy. We talked about both his mission area and my mission areas, leading the effort in data monetization and really pushing this forward. But what does this mean for USDA for the future and where we're going? These themselves just show that we are already leveraging data to drive strategic initiatives. Across the USDA, we're pushing our data strategy forward, really with this multi-cloud approach to data modernization to enable each mission area to deliver their specific needs while also sharing data, sharing these capabilities across mission areas and to the USDA enterprise data warehouse. Within each mission area's investment into this, we are able to enable our centralized and decentralized data teams to manage the data for their mission area. And by doing this, they have a comprehensive view of the data that is available to them. And it really enables them to deliver data-driven products, or our strategy number 5 in our USDA data strategy, analytics for a purpose, so that they can do that for their internal and external customers. And then having that common data picture really gives our data teams more confidence in enabling access to data for their business analysts, their business level teams for data visualization. Let's see. Next slide, please. Okay, so one thing that is really new for us as a comprehensive team at the USDA is the idea of reference architectures. So this multi-cloud approach that we are utilizing, it doesn't really enable data sharing and effective data management, but we have a group working towards a tool agnostic reference architecture. Elango is one of the leaders of that group that's based on these pilots that are underway. And then also discussions about the mission and business needs that we have across the USDA. This tool agnostic reference architecture will enable our mission areas to drive their infrastructure investments while still moving forward with that common data tool set, common data governance practices, etc., across the USDA. And really, speaking of our data governance strategy, this is an area that we are heavily focused on in our current data strategy. And so we do have a data catalog available at the USDA level. And it's not everything is one size fits all. So some mission areas want to use it, some want to explore their own options. So what we're doing at the USDA is we are either in the mission area level utilizing the USDA enterprise data catalog, or we're ensuring that whatever data catalog we're using is capable of syncing information with that enterprise data catalog. So that'll ensure visibility across the USDA for interdepartment initiatives. It gives us a centralized view of our data assets, and it gives us more open data capabilities. All right, so we wanted to leave plenty of room for questions and discussion. So with that, we want to thank you guys for inviting us to the forum and want to open it up.
Or it sounds like there's a number of questions that were, a couple of them even came in from the very beginning. So I'm gonna kick some of those off, and then I do have one I want to add on the back end. But I guess Mike Darlington almost at the very beginning, he was asking about AI capabilities, and I know you guys cover this, but one of the pieces that I think is interesting is that here he says, especially, usage in the government space, have you encountered any technology or security barriers with AI for USDA? And if not, has the team begun, has the team been strategic around which tools to use that may already be approved for public sector use? So, I mean, I know you touched on some of the tool sets that could fit in that realm, but probably not so tightly. So I don't know if, between the three of you guys, you want to kick that one off.
I mean, I could take it first from my perspective. I mean, it depends on what type of AI you're talking about, right? We have what we've started calling the traditional AI versus generative AI. For the traditional AI, we haven't seen, well, that's not true. We have seen barriers to it, and that is one reason why we are going through this data modernization effort. But with the tools that we see in this new cloud set, there's no barriers there. Generative AI, I think maybe Fredy can touch on a little bit more, but we're still in the scoping phase of that. So I don't think there will be tool barriers once that becomes available to us, but those use cases are on hold for us right now. Go ahead, Elango.
Yeah. So from an FPAC point of view, same thing is applicable to what Deedra mentioned. On the generative AI is, we are looking at that, the POC use cases, but I will leave to Fredy to address those things. But from the traditional AI machine learning perspective, like I mentioned in my architecture, we are looking into that. The cloud-based, like SageMaker is one of those things POC. But currently we are using a data science workbench that's loaded with preloaded with multiple R and Python libraries, and where our data scientists are using to do that coding, and from a traditional AI ML perspective. So, Fredy, you want to address the Gen AI?
Yeah, so from I think, capability gap standpoint, really there's this huge gap between proof of concept and production that at the department we're looking to fill. And some of that is training, some of that is tools, but most of it is our data ready? And the answer for that is it really depends on the use case, right? So instead of rushing to get all the proofs of concept done and everyone get to the very similar finish line of awesome POC, but we struggle with productionalizing it, we're kind of looking at some of the infrastructure that's needed. And I don't mean that as literal cloud-based infrastructure, but just the foundational aspects of what's needed in order to enable it. And a lot of the work that you saw here from both mission areas helps with that, getting our data ready for not just generative AI, but just AI in general, whatever the technique is, but also just for standard business intelligence reporting and other things. So we're moving forward with generative AI at the department, but we're taking I think bigger steps and trying to go far versus rushing to get a bunch of POCs done. And then we have struggles with productionalizing it, like most organizations that we've been talking to so far.
Thanks a lot for that, guys. And so there's a couple other pieces popping up here. I think George was the next one to ask. And by the way, I want to give a special shout out to Tina for reaching out from RD. I think that you got Deedra a bit excited, but it's nice to see that everybody, this is creating an opportunity for even across some of the mission areas for there to be a better sharing of information. But Earl Warrington specifically asked, how much interaction are you having with other data-driven agencies, so like the NGAs, geospatials? How often does that conversation start to pop up? And then afterwards is actually before that, there was also a question around they were talking about Azure Purview for assisting data stewards and governance models. So I guess, if you want to have a conversation on the governance piece from both the MRP and the FPAC side.
Yeah, I can address from a governance piece from my FPAC point of view. So currently that The governance is what we are approaching is kind of very bottom up, like, that tactical implementation of governance, right? From a very domain specific. While we have the policies that drive those tactical implementation, such as the reports, to be published, there's a governance out there, and the data, structured data model, there's governance out there. Now, with the 4 agencies under FPAC, we are looking into that, the federated data governance, similar to what Deedra mentioned about, the data mesh concept, that we are currently looking into that one, federated data governance, and providing more power to that end users. And obviously with the tools like a data catalog for them to manage those data catalog and the data assets, glossaries, things like that. But while, a centralized governance to employ the policy, and then how to convert the policy as a code to monitor that governance or enforce that governance in place. So that's how we are looking at from FPAC point of view.
Yeah, so from the MRP perspective, thinking about the data steward role specifically, the data maturity of our programs it's a huge range for us. So we have some programs that have a specific role that is the data steward, but the vast majority of them, it is, it's that multifaceted, multi-level, like you were saying. It's just kind of an add-on, which we're trying to change that. Data steward, being a data steward is not something that can just be an add-on to a role. But that's how it is right now. I would say Purview, how does that assist them? What Purview enables, it's a tool that enables us to, it's customizable to an extent. So what we've done is we've added the USDA, so the USDA has minimum metadata requirements for all of our data assets. So we've added those fields for those minimum metadata requirements to Purview, so that when somebody's going in there, a data steward is going in there and trying to fill this in, they know exactly what information they need to fill out. We're still very early in the pilot on Purview, but it does look like it will be a really effective supporting tool, as I'm sure many of the other data catalogs are for data governance. And I think it does go beyond data cataloging, but we haven't been there yet. That's what I have for that one. Fredy, did you want to add anything to that?
I thought you hit the nail on the head on that, Deedra.
Okay, thanks. And I would just say real fast, Tina, I think that's a great idea and something that we should talk to Fredy about. Just gonna put that plug in there. And then on the side of NGA geospatial agencies, I know that within MRP, I don't interact with them a lot. My team does not interact with them a lot, but our programs do. Those data teams within our programs, especially the geospatial agency. I have a geospatial coordinator on my team, so she does a lot of that work. And that's what I would love to be able to utilize our shared data space for with MRP, is that data that we are collaborating with those external agencies on, pulling it in, sending it to them, just having that shared space where everybody can come in and see that collaboration that's going on and utilize that where they need. But yeah, I think that's something that can be improved and likely will be improved with our modernization efforts.
Awesome. So on that same front, I think so I kind of know the answer to this one, but there was a question here if there's any use cases going on with GCP. Fredy, you want to run with that one?
Yes, to the best I can in open forum. So we do have use cases throughout the department that use Google Cloud provider, and I think, or Google Cloud platform, and we also have use cases that use Oracle as well. I think, you know, about which choices, I don't think I'm prepared to have that conversation in an open forum about which ones are getting used and why, but there are use cases across the department, really all of our clouds. And what we want to do is actually have a more holistic view of all of them as, you know, we look at our data analytics investment. Whether those investments are happening in data analytics or outside are more for another conversation. But we do have use cases in data analytics across all of them.
So one piece I wanted to fit in from, you know, this is sort of a personal angle, but I love to know kind of, you know, the room where all these conversations happen. Like, how did this come to be? I mean, obviously the high level structure of a modernized vision for data strategy makes perfect sense, and I think everybody will be on board with it. But in terms of, you know, with such a, you know, with an agency that, you know, such as USDA, where you have all these independent mission areas, you have all these different goals and objectives and technical stacks, like how did you guys kick off this conversation, and where did you start gaining that momentum to all come together? And can you walk us through a little bit of that maybe some other you know, folks working at other agencies can take as some inspiration?
You guys want me to start? Or you guys want to kick it off?
Go ahead, Fredy.
So this is an area where I wish I can say that progress is linear and that everyone just did it because it was amazing work. I think there's a few things to bring up, which is some of this is out of necessity. I think going back to the platform that we have at the department, you know, there's areas of modernization that we weren't able to give in our platform. So I know that, you know, Elango and Deedra have, you know, try to close that gap with, you know, with their mission areas, that there's a need, right? And not to mention, you know, about how this works is it's not just a, you know, like I said, progress is not linear. Sometimes there's hard conversations that have to happen. And I would be the first to admit, we've had hard conversations about what this looks like at USDA, but everyone's been very open about where the gaps are and how we can plug them, and has kept everyone abreast as to the progress. And I think that's how we're able to get to this part. But I wish I could say it was a smooth sailing, everything went well. It's just, you know, that's really what change looks like, is that change can be very uncomfortable when it comes to embracing a new process. And I will tell you that, you know, sometimes you just have to push through it. And I know Elango and Deedra have, you know, as two examples of like, okay, they may have a door close and they open another one, and still able to affect change in this regard. So Elango and Deedra, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think you covered that, Fredy. So, you know, sometimes it's challenging. Like the one that we have been implementing, and this modernization has been going on almost last 2.5 years. You got challenges in multiple things. You know, this is adoption of new technology, new modernization. It's you know, so every challenge has got an opportunities also, right? So that's where we are kind of looking into that. How do we measure those, you know, the challenges, and how do we address those with the, you know, opportunities that we were able to convince our business partners, the business users, and you know, get their buy-in, and that's how we are making the steps all there. Deedra, you want to add?
No, I think you guys covered it. Yeah, our modernization has been happening for a year and a half now, and we are really just now hitting the floor running with it. So definitely a lot of hurdles along the way, but you just have to push through them. And David, I see two questions that I wanted to just address real fast.
Well, we'll go ahead and take care of that. If you want to jump in, just Deedra, if you don't mind, let's leave by about 55, 56. We want to give a couple minutes for some news from our emerging tech group leads, but go ahead and answer the last question you want to throw in there.
Yeah, sounds good. So just regarding the cost, cloud costs, I mean, for us, the fact that we're on the cloud makes that a lot easier. There's no black box in our cost model. Anybody that has admin on their subscription can go in and look at their cost. And it is our programs that are putting a lot of this forward. So they're the ones that need to monitor that and make sure that they're not overspending. It's on them. And then the same with the question on democratizing the AI. Absolutely. My team is not the experts in what we could do with AI. We have data scientists across our programs that are the experts in that. We're definitely going to have governance over it, and tools that they use will have to come through us for approval, but there's no way that I could say that our team is solely going to be the ones doing the AI in our mission area. That's all I got, David.
All right, Deedra, thank you so much. Elango and Fredy, all of you guys, it's been a wonderful presentation. And if you guys want to stick around on the back end and keep answering some additional questions, you can. But I want to give the floor before we wrap up the hour to Rob Werman, who is our Emerging Technologies Community of Interest Lead, to share some news and items that we typically need to cover from agenda.
Thanks, David. This is Rob Werman here. As David said, I'm the government chair for the Emerging Technology COI. Just a couple of quick things I wanted to pepper in. First of all, of course, thank you so much, Deedra, Elango, and Fredy, for this really compelling discussion on data. Just by virtue of the fact that we have so many people attending today, I think that's a testimonial to the interest in what it is that you're doing. So just a couple quick points. Number one, for those of you that aren't familiar with the COI, and I'm going to post this in the chat as well so that you can get to the links. We do have a number of working groups. So today's meeting was sponsored by the DevSecOps COI, who's also taking an interest in data ops. We also have working groups that are centered around artificial intelligence, blockchain, quantum, smart cities, and smart infrastructure. So if you have an interest in any of that, in addition to your interest in data, please, by all means, reach out to us. And I'm about to post those links in the chat here. And then number two, as you can imagine, with all of these working groups and also across ACT-IAC writ large with the different COI, we have a need for people that will volunteer and want to get engaged and be a part of the leadership teams with all of this. So for those of you that are members of the AI working group, just a quick reminder that there are elections underway right now for the co-chairs of that working group. And then Tim Gilday from the Quantum Working Group has asked me to let everybody know that they also have a couple leadership positions that are available there. And let me just hit return here so it'll be in the chat. So you can see that information in the chat. And then in April, be on the lookout, because across all of the ACT-IAC communities of interest, there's going to be a number of different leadership positions that are opening up, as well as here within the Emerging Technology COI, if you're interested. So there'll be an election that's being held in April for that. And then lastly, there's an event next week on March 27th from 12 to 1 p.m. It's being sponsored by our Smart Infrastructure group, and it's basically going to be Pete Saronis and Sam Navarro talking about nuclear enterprise assurance with David Hughes. So a lot of that gets into the cybersecurity aspect and understanding the overall posture of the systems that are a part of our nuclear weapons footprint. So definitely interesting. I posted that in the chat as well. So feel free to click that and register. We'd love to see you there next week. So that is all that I had to update on. I know we're coming up on time. David, I think you were done with your part, but if Deedra, Fredy, Elango, if you wanted to entertain and address any more questions, you certainly take the rest of the time to be able to do that. Thank you so much for today.
Hey, Rob, did you need anything else to be put in there? You'll be good.
No, I think that's good. If there aren't any questions, we can reclaim the last minute and a half for our day.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, then, everybody, for joining. Look forward to the next piece. And like I said, if anybody is interested in joining any of the working groups, I know actively we're looking for some leadership within the DevOps working group. We need some government leadership as well within the AI working group. Email Nancy and delanoche@actiac.com. The email's in that chat. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. And again, special thanks, Deedra, Fredy, Elango, you guys did an amazing job.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.